Have any of you ladies noticed if you go away, you leave like your husband for a while, especially if he's with the kids, what happens? Increase in order and productivity, or do they tend to kind of deteriorate a little bit? Like meals aren't necessarily organized. You may get stuff like pizza and just convenient stuff. What women look at the whole picture of health. Now, some men are really good at this, but we're talking about a lot of men.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fascinating Womanhood channel, where we talk about all things that have to do with femininity and building strong relationships. I am Cherry Lynn, and I am here with Dixie and Dylan Forsyth. Hello.
Hello.
So today we're talking about why men need women. We hear so much about toxic masculinity these days. We hear so many women say things like, who needs a man? In some ways, it's great that women are self-sufficient and independent. There's good parts of that, but it's also sometimes carried a bit too far to the point of where women literally say that they don't need men, and it's becoming a problem. But we wanted to talk about what happens when men don't have women, and what are some of the repercussions of that.
Reminds me of a quote by Aristotle Onassis. He did this quote years ago. He said, if women didn't exist, all the money in the world would have no meaning. That kind of underscores to me the beginning of what we're talking about here. And you think, here's this guy with hundreds of millions of dollars, and he says without women there would be no meaning to the wealth that he has created and has. We're going to go over today three. There's lots of them. We always say there's lots of things, but we boil it down to three big reasons why men need us, and why in Fascinating Womanhood we say women are the gatekeepers of civilization. If a whole nation's women become corrupt, there's not really much hope for the men, because they need us. Number one, we temper men, and we tend to civilize them and have a gentling influence on them, whether we're trying to do it or not. We're talking about good women, not bad women.
Right, that's very important. We're not talking about corrupt women.
There's some really, really bad women, but most of us are not. And we're talking about basically good women. We have a gentling and tempering effect on men, particularly when we marry them, when in relationships with them. We're the mothers in civilization. We raise the people of this planet, for the most part. And men tend, partly because of their increased testosterone that they have, that is something they're just born with, they tend to be more aggressive and more warlike without the influence of women.
Can you give an example of how we gentle them? Because I don't know about everyone out there that's listening to this, but when I hear men become more warlike, or I hear women gentle them, I think, like, are you saying that men will constantly fight each other if there's not a presence of women around? Can you give an example of what that means?
Sometimes the fighting is not physical. Here's an example that you see all the time, unfortunately, even today in the news. When you look at rioting, you'll see in the news, this big riot broke out, or bar fights, or things like that. And you look, instead of at the story that they're telling about it, you look at the people doing it. There's studies on this. They tend to be unmarried younger men. When men are married, particularly when they have children, they tend to be more responsible. Like, let's see, I got a job, I've got kids. If I do this, what might happen? I could get arrested. I mean, once in a while you'll see women, but they don't tend to be the feminine
majority
ones that are really great influence. But the majority of women we do have a civilizing effect on men, particularly when we're good.
Another example of that I have, when I was shopping for my house with my husband and my family, we were debating between two different homes in different neighborhoods, and our realtor was very, very, very experienced lady. She said the best way to get a good feel for the neighborhood that you want to live with your family is go there at night, visit the property at night, walk just around the area and see how many men are walking around at night by themselves. And you'll get a feel for how dangerous your neighborhood is. And I said, well, what does men walking around by themselves have anything to do with a dangerous neighborhood? Studies show that is partnered with crime. And there were all these statistics that she named off that I was so impressed by. But what stood out to me was that you can tell about a dangerous neighborhood by how many men are walking around by themselves.
But men have a higher level of testosterone. Their masculine ambition that they naturally have sometimes gets them into trouble with other men if they don't have women, and they're born this way, so we shouldn't be hard on them. But we do have a very important role to play. And this is partly also due to their drive for competence and hierarchy. They just have this built into them. And lots of men do get into trouble without women. Have you noticed, have any of you ladies noticed if you go away, you leave like your husband for a while, especially if he's with the kids, what happens? Do things increase in order and productivity, or do they tend to kind of deteriorate a little bit? Like nobody's dressing up as much. There's less, like meals aren't necessarily organized. You may get stuff like pizza and just convenient stuff to deal with things instead of what women look at the whole picture of health. Now, some men are really good at this, but we're talking about a lot of men, a lot of us. And I'm married to an extraordinarily good man. And so are you. But when I'm gone, I used to go to sisters' reunions once a year. And when I'm gone, he just sort of kind of survives.
Yeah.
And he doesn't eat well. He eats burgers and stuff.
Yeah. You've heard those stories too about like Robert Downey Jr., how he was a very troubled man for many years, substance abuse. And he credits himself. He credits his wife for kind of saving him. And that's what we're talking about one of the things we're talking about when we talk about gentling them. Yeah,
and giving him a meaning. He was addicted to drugs, and he talks about this. It was a motivation for him, and she believed in him. She wasn't his mother. She didn't mother him. She didn't order him to do things. The courts had ordered him to do stuff all the time, and it didn't make any difference. She made the difference because of her belief in him. She became a reason for him to get on top of his drug addiction. And that was, Iron Man was after that. All of his greatest successes were after that.
Number 2 is our focus on relationships.
Yeah, studies have been done with newborn babies, and they found that boys focus their eyes on things while girls tend to focus on faces. We just tend to be more relationship oriented and our focus. And because of our bigger interest in that, we put the time and energy into it. And good women can have a great influence when it comes to relationships because we're interested in them all the time. That's why we talk about relationships all the time. We provide men with higher levels of motivation.
When you're talking about relationships, what specifically, can you give an example of how we influence them by focusing on relationships? Like, what does that mean? Because I think we get a lot of questions about this.
Focusing on relationship. Well, because our relationship with him, with our children, is important to us. We're more focused on it. So if it's off, we tend to want to correct it. Like my child is really sad, and I've seen you do this, and of course I've done it for years. This one child is sad. There's a statement going around that I think is unfortunately quite true, that if a mother's about as happy as her saddest child. That's because we're so relationship oriented. And because of that, though, we give men higher levels of meaning, a legacy, a reason for them to provide a legacy for their families. Because of our interest in relationship, our interest within him, how our relationship is with him, his relationship with his children, his relationship with you and others, co-workers. You might say, honey, he's having trouble at work. She might say, let's invite these people to dinner. Develop their relationship, and that ends up helping him. If he's really upset, you'll talk with him because of our interest in relationships.
It's almost like, from what I'm hearing, we're a bit of a morale leader.
But the reason we are is because of our greater interest in relationships over tasks, getting stuff done.
Right. Relationships over tasks. I like that. And it doesn't mean that tasks aren't important to us.
Oh, no, of course.
We can kind of do both.
Well, that's why we're good at both. That's why we're good at it. Okay. And number 3, we motivate them in countless subtle ways. And I watched a documentary not long ago about Vanderbilts and Rockefellers that helped build the United States, and they amassed huge fortunes. And they said that one of the reasons that they were interested in when they were being interviewed is because they were motivated to make a great legacy for themselves and their families. It wasn't just them by themselves doing this, building railroads and shipping and all that stuff. It was their motivation of their wives and families that motivated them to be more and more successful at what they were doing. Those women that motivated them didn't motivate them by saying, time to get up and get to work. They motivate them by having the relationship with them.
How do you think your mother motivated your father?
She always believed in him. Women can have an incredible civilizing and positive effect on men. And we do it so often and so easily that we don't even realize how valuable we are. And that's the ultimate point of this message today, is how important each of you are in whether you're married or not, your brothers, your fathers, the men in your life. Women are the gatekeepers. And when we're good, which most of us are, we have a civilizing effect on men, and they need us.
Well, this has been a really insightful conversation. I really love it. And like you said before, I think there's so many other benefits. We just wanted to highlight these three because these are the three really important ones. And if you're going to take away anything, it should be these three. Thank you so much for sharing all of your advice. And thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to look down below the video where you can see all of the links where you can purchase Dixie's books, find us on social media, and subscribe to our channel if you like what you're watching. We're here every week and we have new videos, so you should definitely click subscribe so you know when we have a new one premiering. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.